Firstly, welcome and thank you for coming. The main purpose from my perspective was, I've said to a couple of you already, I don't live in Ireland, so the chances of me just bumping into you on the road are fairly unlikely. So I thought it would be a good opportunity at the beginning of the year for you to come and see what we're up to, where we've come from, what we're planning for this year, and equally, if you want to ask questions or make comments, today's the day, really, or one of the days. So I thought I'd just briefly start with how I got here, and how I got involved with IMSTA. In a way, perhaps it mirrors what I see as the development of the organisation. So I have to say I was a reluctant member. Justin might remember I got a phone call, what I think was probably about 8 years ago, and I was invited to join IMSTA as Boston Scientific, and I very politely declined on the grounds that I wanted to see how much it could have. I didn't want to be pushing it too hard from the early stages. About a year later, I got another phone call, and Justin went through all the developments that had happened in that year, and he persuaded me to join. So I joined the board after about 2 years. I must have been the only one with a calculator, so I ended up as treasurer. Given my maths performance, it was an unusual award. And then a couple of times over the years, Justin asked me when the chairmanship came up to put myself forward, and I did say no on a couple of occasions. Again, not because I don't obviously believe in what the organisation is trying to do, but I felt very uncomfortable, frankly, being not living and working in this market, and then being the chairman of an organisation that is representing the market and the sector over here. But having been asked, I think, 3 times, I got the feeling that that would be okay. So that's how I ended up here. And before we go into where the organisation is going, the very first IMSTA council I came to, so nobody knew me. I'd spoken to Justin on the phone, and there was a guy from Medtronic who I did know from the UK. So I turned up, he wasn't there, Richard, but there was 2 fellas I didn't know, and in the worst stage whisper you've ever heard, one of them said to the other, "It's Bart Simpson." So that kind of broke it. It got better from there. Other than that, I've always been made very welcome. So, and that continues to this day. So, as I've kind of watched and participated in IMSTA development, one of the really key elements of any trade association is the management of reputation of the members and of the sector. That's one of the reasons an industry association exists. If I look back, particularly when there's a couple of things I think we've built strategically over a long period of time that come to fruition now and are valuable for all of the members. So particularly around the code of conduct. Right? When things go bad, they go bad, and it's how you are prepared for that and how you then manage it. So I think the fact that we've developed the code of conduct, it's linked with UCAMED, everyone signs up to it, we do training on it, I think and hope everyone understands it. That seems to me a good value for members, and sometimes perhaps the importance of it can be lost until, as I say, something goes wrong. And then you see being able to stand behind it, being able to talk to our organisational customers and say, well, actually, these are the things we have done. These are the things that our members sign up to. I think can be a value for all of us. And likewise, something that I'm very pleased about, and Justin has pushed now for a long time, is around credentialing. Now, credentialing, I think, is important because it's going to happen anyway, but on a more positive level, I think it adds integrity to the business we do. There's an element of safety, which is sometimes where it came from. But one of the things I noticed back in the UK was when it was first being discussed, there was a proliferation of companies offering a credentialing service. So we find some companies having to have two, so an individual territory manager needing 2, 3, 4 credentialing badges or services, which is just ridiculous. Each one costs money. Each extra one loses, in my view, loses some of its own credibility. So I think the fact that IMSTA has absolutely taken a lead on behalf of the industry, and we'll see that coming in March, is, again, it's quite structural, it's a little bit dull perhaps, but from an industry perspective, I think it gives us all a kind of a collective benefit. And I think that it does signify how much IMSTA as an organisation and IMSTA's voice and reputation and influence has grown over the years. The first few years, frankly, no one knew who IMSTA was, right? But I think over the years, building through a very consistent programme, now, you mentioned IMSTA in service of government, HSE, and hospitals, with clinical groups, or various and multiple stakeholders, and IMSTA is much better known, and is a credible voice on sector matters, but also on the wider healthcare system. So, for instance, last year we put in a paper on the future of healthcare, invited from government. Now, it wasn't specifically about medical technology, but it was more to demonstrate and continue that process of IMSTA being a credible commentator on the healthcare environment in Ireland. So as I look to this year, over the years we've streamlined, tried to streamline what we go after. So we remain a beautifully formed but very small organisation. Right? You can't do everything that you want to do, so you've got to focus. And the absolute focus for this year will be around the value of our technologies and of this sector to patients, to the healthcare system, and to the wider economy. All about value. And over the years, probably the biggest criticism or complaint or angst I've heard, both around the board and at events like this, has been that the only thing our buyer cares about is price. It's all about price. No one wants to talk about value. This has been a very, very consistent thing for years and years. And gradually over the years, we've been trying to build up that story around value. So how we look to link it together this year will be a 3-stage process. So at one stage around health technology assessment. So how do you know you're buying the right thing? So being more systematic about the choice and the value that's identified. At the moment, it seems like a bit of a free-for-all, particularly when I compare with some other countries in Europe, neighbouring countries. Secondly, with activity-based funding, how do you get the funding for those things you've decided are good for the healthcare system that you want to buy? It's less random, but once you've decided this is what you want, how do you get the funding for that? And then finally, I think a really big pillar that we worked on particularly last year is about value-based procurement. So then when you actually do the transaction to get the thing that you decided you want to buy, that there's a framework that actually identifies the value of what we are all offering to the market. So a kind of 3-stranded approach that brings some systematic organisation to what sometimes I think feels to members is a bit random, and where it's very difficult to get your message of value for your product, for your service, over to your buyer. So, and this is it's a build really, I'd say, on the last at least 3 or 4 years. It takes time. There's no guarantee that in 2017 all of this will fit together, but you have to start and really tell a very consistent message. So that's the principal strategic direction of the organisation for 2017. We very much think it responds to the needs of the members and what we hear and have heard for many years from the membership. On a more perhaps tactical level, we've established the procurement working group. I know how much angst and sometimes annoyance comes from daily transactional dealings. in order to try and create a forum where some of the things can be ironed out. We've got a procurement working group now to try and take the heat out of what then becomes a commercial situation, and it's very difficult to do anything sensible in the heat of that commercial situation. So the creation of that group allows members to have a voice, to have a discussion with procurement outside of that immediate kind of transactional arrangement. So hopefully the mixture of strategic and tactical hits the mark. It's a continuation of where we've been heading. So I'll wrap up there, and just to say to all of you, the more people can get involved with IMSTA. It's a small organisation, most of us are volunteers, but the more you get involved, or the bright young things in your organisations, we can always find good things for them to do. If there's an area that you have a particular interest in, for your company, but IMSTA doesn't represent that area of interest, then we'll help you to make that happen within the arrangement of a trade association, which allows you to do that, because there's certain rules that you couldn't do just maybe one-to-one with another company. So please, don't be reluctant or shy. Get your bright young people into IMSTA, and we'll put their hands to work, that's for sure. So, I hope that's been a quick-ish run through where we've come from, my particular journey with IMSTA, and where we're heading this year. So let me stop talking. Sense of relief in the room, and if you've got any comments, any questions, I'll happily try to deal with them, or Justin might deal with them as well. So over to you, really.
Okay. I'd like to just give you a reminder that Mary from Medtronic will be tracking the progress of the UCAMED guidelines this year as an organisation, and how will we kind of either track or communicate out what's going to happen in 2018.
Sure. So thanks, Mary. So I think a quite significant change for it was kind of back end of 16, but in effect it's for 2017. Is that, so in the past, IMSTA, because we're so small and we're quite mean with our money, we didn't join UCAMED. So Justin built a kind of personal relationship with some people at UCAMED and got some of the benefits of non-membership, but for free, which is a bit of his modus operandi. But this year we decided to take the plunge and join, partly for that, partly about credibility. So now, the National Association IMSTA is part of the wider European family, and the credibility that brings. So yes, we'll be right at the heart of that, communicating those developments to members as they come.
Yes, maybe a bit more of a local transition. You mentioned it's a small, but there's lots of activity, and there are partner organisations or potential partner organisations like IMDA, for example. Is there any plan, or is there anything that can be done to perhaps not necessarily join forces in that sense, but certainly have shared purpose across those and just to really get your thoughts on something that we're
Again, very good question, and part of our strategy for this year is to raise the voice of IMSTA. Right? So we're relatively small. Frankly, I look at it in as much as I can dispassionately. I think IMSTA has a louder voice than its size, which is great. It's where you want to be. You don't want it to be the other way. But clearly, we have another organisation in Ireland which has some very common aims and aspirations. In the past, we've been pretty separate. Some of what IMSTA is looking at more recently has been closer to some of the things that we've been talking about for a long time, which I actually see as a positive thing. So to try and answer your question briefly, I do see possibilities. We are pursuing them very early stages. Where that ends up, honestly, don't know. But I do genuinely believe if you have a mixed message to government and to your main buyer, that's not a healthy thing. So where we have commonality, I think it makes sense to speak with one voice. Any other comments, questions? Is it clear? Good. So, all right. Well, listen. Some of you are dessert left. I won't keep you from it for any longer. Other than to say, genuinely, thanks very much for this. I say I don't get the opportunity to meet you very often, for which you may be very pleased. But I think it's important for me to get a sense of what the members are feeling, what you'd like us to do differently. It's always difficult to find the right balance.
Just
one
comment.
Yeah.
I suppose we need to remember collectively that a lot of this work is done on a voluntary basis. And I think fair play to those who are prepared to give up their time and work on our collective behalf for the good cause. So I think fair play.
And board elections will be coming up soon, so anyone who's interested, Justin will be sending out notices fairly soon. So, good. So I'm around for a few more minutes, so if anyone wants to have a chat with me one-to-one, then I'll be here, and then I'm off to the airport. So, thanks again.